Perfect. Okay, boom. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this evening. We have a magnificent guest with us tonight, one who is going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration. And that is none other than our brother from St. Vincent, a student minister, brother Mikail Yusuf Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, dear brother, and Eid Mubarak to
And
you
it,
and your
and it,
listeners who have observed this trying and purifying season. That's all.
All praises to Allah. Yes, sir. Well, we have so much questions, so much powerful information, inspiration to our guests and viewing audience. But we want to start first with a somber moment, but we want to salute and send positive energy to the life of Minister Abdul Akbar Muhammad, to his family, his
So,
friends, the believers, the well wishers, the community. We are all still processing everything, but I saw a powerful tribute done for him by yourself on Facebook. What prompted you to make your status, sir?
um, death is inevitable, and I want to say, in the last 2, 3 years in our nation, we have lost a few stalwart um, pillars and stalwart soldiers. Um, and we always feel it, but we know it is the will of Allah, and if we are believers, then we are happy with the will of Allah. But sometimes some hit harder than other. Um, when I heard the news that our brother Akbar had passed, I felt it. I want to say more than I want to say probably I haven't felt that way 5, 10 times in my life. Like that instant, that natural, that real reaction. Um, and that made me really ponder on the importance he had in shaping me. Um, and so I reflected on that. And that's why I posted. I don't looking back, I didn't think 5 person had the impact that he had in molding me and shaping me. He probably didn't know. For sure he didn't know. But yes, so it was and it's not just for me personally, is because how much I've been blessed and honored to share with him and hear of his thoughts, of his real deep yearning and where his mind and his heart was at for our nation. And so much of what he shared hasn't materialized yet. It really got me to double down on my commitment, or at least vow to double down on my commitment. I don't want to say that in a week I have done it, but I definitely vow to recommit to it more heartedly. Brother Akbar was an internationalist. 196,940,000 square miles to him was not something you drop, to impress anybody. That's where he lived. That's where he lived. That was his home address. That was his IP address. All of it. And he wished that many more of us would understand what it means, and open to it and understanding it, and if we worked a whole lot more interconnected. So that was really the man. All the times I sat down with him, heard him speak, I can't recall hearing him speak about himself. And we talking, how he could talk, right? He could talk, and he was aware of it. He would always, you know, um, let you know beforehand, especially if you did a lecture. He could talk, yet I can't recall hearing him talk about himself.
mm,
Um, but he wanted for him personally, here, sharing stories to let you know you've been around, none of that, none of that. It was always about sharing something that he gained through his experience and hoping he could give it to you and hoping you could do something about it with it.
mm.
Um, he was a beautiful brother. He was a beautiful brother.
Praise due to Allah. Yes, sir. And people are showing love all around the world. Walaikum salam, Sister Naima, righteous by nature. Walaikum salam and Eid Kareem family. Walaikum salam, Haz one, and Eid Kareem to you all, everybody who's watching. How how did you all connect? How did you and Ms. Akbar connect?
I joined the nation in 1995 in Montreal, Canada. So obviously, um, when you learn to the structure of the nation and who's who, it was to hear about there was an international representative. I seek them at Saviors. They took me a few Saviors Day to actually touch base with them. Um, Being young, I thought it meant that he was in charge of everything in the nation outside of the United States. I had to be disillusioned about that, but that struck the conversation. Um, so when he came to Canada, um, we would make sure I'd make sure that I'd be there, even if you went to Toronto, I'd make sure I'd travel. It really took, I want to say, a closer turn is when I wrote a piece after some years, probably around 2010 or so, probably before. I wrote a piece that I hoped could be useful for Chicago, for the laborers to understand what it is to be in a nation outside of Canada in terms of structure. Um, Outside of the United States, I mean, in terms of structure. By that time, I had pretty much got into contact with all the mosques and the ministers and a lot of the believers that were registered outside of the United States of America. And so I got to understand a lot of the common issues. I don't want to say bureaucratic, but structural issues that we were all facing. So I wrote down something, and I thought that the best person to send it to would be Brother Akbar. And I did, and it turned out that he was coming to Toronto, which is still in Canada. It was like 6 hours away, but he was on his way to Toronto and asked me to meet him there. And so I did. And we went through it along with the other things that he was doing over there. So it was a long weekend. I want to say 4 days or so,
Mm,
where we literally left each other when it was time to sleep. We stayed in the hotel room till late and we talked, and then there was events every day. He was a guest of Toronto, so they had lined up some events. So that was a long 4 days. Actually, have this book here. He had a million books, right? He always had books, and he had too many books. So he wanted to make sure that people would share it, and he was selling some of it. That's I just see the price sticker still there, but he actually gave it to me. But
mm,
he gave me this book based on the conversation we were having. He digged into his crate, and this is called the Black Count.
mm,
I've read it 6 times by now, but that just shows the mind, right? So he has a crates of books. We're having a discussion, and it pops in his head. Oh, on that, you need this book, and he dig in this book, and he give me the book and say, read this. It will help you. It's actually um, it's a general of Napoleon. You know, we all know the story about Napoleon conquering Egypt, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's the historical uh, fact that, well, the man that actually conquered Egypt was this black man, Alexandre Dumas, who, and then Napoleon followed behind. It's just a piece of
Mm.
history. I'm starting to talk like him, but so he gave me that book, um, and I cherish it more now than ever. So from that, the thing is, I thought that I was writing this thing. So during that weekend, what happened is he told me that I want to call it a report that I written. To me, it was just a piece. He says it's too long. I remember he said it's too long. The minister won't go through this. You have to shrink it to 2 page. And I said, well, I was writing it for you, really. He said, no, no, this has to go to the minister.
Mm.
So shrink into 2 page and make sure that when you give it, you know all the bullet points. He was always precise. And at that moment, I'm like, I'm, I'm not giving it to him. Like, you know, but he already was seeing the steps.
Yes, sir.
Right. So, and then from there, we really built. And then there was when the Caribbean tour happened, that was it 20, that's 20, end of 2010. So really this is older than that. So when the Caribbean tour was planned, the second leg, first leg was Jamaica, Haiti, and St. Kitts.
Mm.
The second leg was to be originally St. Vincent, Barbados, and Grenada, if I'm not mistaken. So he called me because he knew I was from St. Vincent. So he called me, but at the time I'm in Montreal. He called me and he said, "You have to fly down to St. Vincent now, because when we leave here, at the time they were in Jamaica, I think. We're going to St. Vincent, so you have to be there ahead of time, and other things, of course." But he called me, get me ready. Then that got canceled because it got postponed. So that pod got postponed. So I didn't go. And then in 2011, it was Trinidad, because Trinidad was not on the original. So we met there. A lot of things happened in Trinidad in 2011. That was the first time. Well, that was the time where there was the most Caribbean representative and believers at the same time together in the history of the nation.
Mm.
Not even at Savior's Day. In Trinidad, it was huge. Uh, every, every island that has an NOI presence was there. And he was very instrumental in that. He made so many things happen for the region, for our region.
Yeah.
So all these things, he would always think about what he could do, how he could assist, um, because of his closeness with the minister, how he could remove hurdles because he understood cultural differences that maybe a laborer that is so focused in America, and it's a big job. It's a full-time job to even grasp and understand what's going on and what needs to be done. It's understandable that you don't have necessarily the time to understand also all the other 95 countries and all their little cultural differences, but he did. So he would always help out when he could, even though his position um, was not in the structure per se. He was a representative, but he was not, you know, quote unquote, a laborer in that capacity. But he always helped out. So we got to work very closely, very closely. I would call him for small things, big things. He was always available. Um, so that's how it started. Really, it off of that report. He, I, I thought he was working on. He wanted the international affairs ministry in the nation. He
Mm.
thought it was. He thought it was crucial. Um, and I guess it would that not that others didn't see the need, but I guess uh, didn't see it, the urgency as he did. So it was not on the top list of the to-do list, right?
Yes, sir.
But we were working on this sometimes just to, share ideas. And I remember one time he's talking about, what it should do. And then he was talking about the international affairs minister. And then he's starting to describe that person needs to this, and that. And I'm
Mm.
like, I, but one of the first one he said, he said young, and I was like, oh, I was like, you're not gonna do it? He said, no, 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 can't, it won't be me. And then he starts to describe, and there was another brother in the room, I remember, and he's looking at me as in like he's talking about you. And I was like, but he wouldn't say it like that, he wouldn't come
Mm.
up like
Mm.
he would put it out there. He says, this is the measurement of the suit,
Yes,
if
sir.
you,
Yes,
you
sir.
know, if you think it fits you, well, trying to squeeze in, but
Yes, sir.
I'm not putting it on you, you
Yes,
know.
sir.
But yeah, sorry, I'm saying it, and now I'm it's coming back to my memories. It's kind of not bundled up, but there's emotions attached to it. But that's how really um it, it started and then built over the years.
Oh, praise be to Allah. And I'm just want to let you know that people are showing love from all around the world. Thank you very much. Walaikum salam, Sister Miriam. And I remember when I was younger, her and the Sister Naima, they would always imitate the Honorable Minister Farrakhan at Savior's Day and events. And they would, the minister would always say, "Is Brother Akbar here?" And always ask for them. And they would always do that. Make me laugh because the minister was always
Yeah.
calling Brother Akbar to the front. Praise be to Allah. I wanted to ask you on we got more questions, of course, about
Mhm.
your connection and brotherhood with him, your working relationship, but also a time where more of a personal side of him, where he wasn't on the rostrum, where he wasn't organizing. How was he like when he wasn't um like when he was in downtime, if you will?
I that's really my best memories, because most of my interaction with him were actually on, downtime, whether it was at the lounge at the airport. We were in Iran in 2015. We were there for about 2 weeks.
Mm,
Um, Imam Sultan was there, Sister Nisa from Final Call was there as a delegation from the nation. I had been invited because they wanted a voice from the Caribbean, but incidentally, they the organizers of the conference didn't get my name from the nation. They got it from another brother that had been invited to represent Africa.
mm.
Um, so I didn't know nothing really about the conference. He called me, he said they're gonna contact you if you want to come. I said, sure. I'm not gonna say yes. Um, but it happened so quick that when I landed there, didn't even know what the conference was about, to tell you the truth. Very little anyway. So when I got to the hotel, Mr. Akbar was there, and Imam Sultan, and Brother Earl was with Brother Akbar and Sister Nisa. So we spent some time there. But every time I had some time with him, um, yeah, it was always about sharing, even if it was light. Um, we heard the minister over the years always say, it's like, and people bore witness to that about him, that even when he was more relaxed and even joking, quote unquote, he wasn't. Everything was always serious. Um, there was no idle time,
Yes,
right?
sir.
There's no idle time. Um, so even if it was just a regular conversation over coffee in a hotel lobby, there was always wisdom being dropped. And I guess it's because, my fountain was overflowing. Um,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, I had almost a generation difference between him. So the whole time that I'm Oh, I knew him. He was already full. Even if I
Mm,
go back 25 years, well, 25 years ago, he was already a very, very wise man, well traveled. So there's never been, I don't recall. But really, what impressed me is that looking back, I barely know anything about his personal life.
mm.
Um, and I'm talking hours on end of talking and hearing
Yes,
him
sir. Yes, sir.
speak,
Yes, sir.
but I know nothing about his life because that was not the subject ever.
Mm.
He was like
Okay.
that. He was like he could be funny. He could be funny, especially when recounting stories.
Yes, sir.
He could be funny, but never idle, never just jesting.
Praise be to Allah. Yes. Okay. We also wanted to ask you about. Could you expound on the Iran trip? What was it like being in Iran? Let us know about that.
Okay, so um the the conference itself was 3 days, and it was organized by New Horizon, and it was I have to read it because it was 2015. It was
Yes,
the
sir.
third International Conference of Independent Thinkers and Scholars. So it was the third one. I have a picture here. I don't know how good it is on the camera, but right. Um, so you have. Well, I'm here. I'm here. I'm so bad at this. So I'm
Yes, sir. It's all
here,
good. It's all
brother.
good.
You see Imam Sultan here, and brother Akbar is here. Sister Nisa, right?
Okay.
So, and then there's some African leaders, our brother Kimi Seba, some scholars. Um, so the conference was really Iran, intellectual, and the organizer was actually a movie producer, a
Mm,
great man. Um, if you've seen Minister Farrakhan interview when he was in Iran, he was interviewed in a studio by a Persian brother that spoke very good English.
mm,
Um, well, that was the brother that organized that conference. So the conference was 3 days, but they invited us for 2 weeks.
mm,
So you need to have a visa, of course, to get in. Um, at the time, I was already in St. Vincent, but I flew back to Canada, and actually, it was right after the Justice or Else. So I
okay.
was in
Okay.
Canada to go to Washington. I drove to Washington, drove back to Montreal, and caught my flight from there.
Mm,
So I needed a visa. Funny thing is, they send email to all there's a email group that they're sending to with the specification for the visa, explaining to the Americans that they have to go get their visa at the Pakistani embassy
mm.
in Washington, because obviously there is no Iranian embassy in the United States. I'm reading this and I'm not paying attention to this because it said the people in the United States of America, and I'm waiting for my own, little information. How do I proceed about? And then at some point, I'm starting to think it's pretty close. So I hit them up and I say, it's like, so how do I get my visa? Oh, we send the email already. No, but you said United States. Aren't you in America? Yeah, I'm in America, the continent, but I'm not in the United States of America. I'm in Canada. Oh, well, it's the same procedure. I'm like, well, it's a bit late. I had to rush it. I got my visa, flew down there. Now, it like we all know, the American media does, you know, propaganda and filters whatever they show you and how they want. We are aware of this, right? We are aware, we know. So I'm leaving there knowing that what I got from Iran was very, very biased. But it cannot help but to still influence you because you don't have another version. So you expect that
Yes,
it's
sir.
not so bad, but you still kind of side eye. Brother, the level of hospitality
Mm.
that they receive you with makes you want to blush, like blush. Um, they are just, and I know, of course, we're guests, fine, but you can see, right, when somebody is doing something because he's received orders, and when it's actually coming out of him, like
Mm,
naturally,
mm,
and
mm,
two, three people, fine, but everybody, everywhere, the level of hospitality is through the roof.
mm.
The other thing is that you're expecting, of course, is the women are, they're not, they obviously they're not like MGTs and assertive and strong, and you expect them to be a little. I've met some young university student. I was blessed to speak at to carry us to different venues to speak. So I spoke at a few university, and there's a group of university students that want to be around us for the whole time. Um, some we're still in very, very close contact with. And by the way, they are very, very impressed. The young ones are very impressed. Those that know about the nation are very impressed by it. But I saw some young ladies, assertive, articulate, um, open to the world.
Mm.
Um, and it is not at all this subservient and docile. It is just that it's like in our nation, I guess. I think it was closer to what we have when we get together, let's say a Savior's Day at big events, in terms of our interaction. And it's not closed up. It's appropriate and it's well defined. The parameters are clear. So when you're comfortable with that, then you bloom.
Yes, sir.
And this is what I saw: a very developed self-reliant. These sanctions that have been applied on them, they do not live it as a punishment. They saw this as a trial,
Mm.
to overcome, and they did. So they are subservient. They do everything for themselves.
Wow.
Um, so that's why they can still stand. I saw beautiful people. Um, the conference itself, they they want they want to invite people that have they have the ability to go back home and I guess reach people so
Mm.
that they could testify, right? That will have a whole lot more weight than anyway they can't reach people through televisions and media, not even social media, really. So they figured if we bring in people that have reach, that have a following, that have credibility, and they come and experience it themselves, then we'll have not ambassadors, but there'll be people around the world that'll be able to testify to what the reality is in Iran. And what I also saw, and I've interacted with people from the Middle East, all these different, I want to say countries, but maybe culture is the better word. Um, none, bar none, come close to the devotion that everyday Iranians have for Allah, His Messenger, um, for the cause of Islam,
Wow, wow, wow.
and for the understanding that um, these are the last days. I have to tell that story. I met this, when you meet somebody here or in Canada, wherever, you introduce yourself, and if the occasion, I guess, is right, you'll share what you do for a living. Maybe you might share, I don't know, your degree, in the conversation, things like that. These are the things, my name is so and so. I'm
Yes, sir. Yes,
vice
sir.
president of marketing, studied at Harvard, whatever. That's pop, pop, pop. what you introduced. You know, I met this lady over there. She was about, I'm in 60s maybe. She was actually a doctor. I can't remember the doctorate, but you know, telling me that she was a doctor in engineering or whatever came second after letting me know, and then not me personally, but that's how they introduced that she had sacrificed three sons
Mm.
to the war. That's a badge of honor. Not like, oh my God, I lost three sons. No, not no, no, no. It's a badge of honor for her. She had three sons that became martyr in the war, like the war against Iraq. But to them, it's a badge of honor.
Mm.
You know, when it's in your culture, to
Yes, sir.
hold that
Yes,
as a
sir.
badge of honor, you know, I think the Americans would need to understand, you know, they're talking about boots in the ground. No, it's a different concept, but they are top to bottom um, dedicated to it. It's ingrained. It's not some, you know, some propaganda thing. There's actually political um differences, right? So for those that might not be too aware about thinking the Ayatollah is like the equivalent of the president, or no, the Ayatollah would be more equivalent to say, let's say the Pope.
Mm.
If you know, if the Catholic Church was so important in the country,
Yes,
um,
sir.
right? There's actual political parties, there's political um position, arguments, um, and there's the level of their understanding of the world is vast at a very young age. Very young age. I was impressed. And it was the food, oh, the food, where we won't go there. But I'll tell you this story. So we're in Tehran for the conference, right? And I'm um I'm looking at a picture on the wall, a beautiful mosque. And it's a beautiful picture. You know, like the picture itself is artistic, but it's a beautiful mosque, beautiful dome, and I'm just in awe in front of it. So this man comes with his little English. You like. I say it's beautiful. I said, come. I have no idea. I follow him. We go to the hall where there's, you know, we're having coffee and this. And he introduced me to this man with a turban and he says, tell him. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to tell him. I said, I don't know. And then the man comes from the side, realizes that there's a language barrier. So he comes and he actually speaks French fluently.
Mm.
And so do I. So he translates. So I'm telling him, I don't know why I'm here. I was looking at the picture of this, da da da. He says, oh, well, this man, the man sitting with the turban, is the Mola for Mashhad,
Mm.
which is where this picture is, where this temple is. So they want to know if you want to go see it. I was like, I would love to. I said, okay, great. We'll organize it tomorrow. Fine. So the next morning, I'm not thinking about it. I'm thinking it's like down the street. They're gonna, you know, get a taxi. I'm gonna go see
Yes,
it.
sir. Yes, sir.
Great.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
happy. The next morning, he calls me to my room, come down, and then he tells me, okay, so in an hour, be ready. We'll take you to the airport and we'll take the flight. The flight. I'm like, what are you talking about? What's going on? So yes, Mashhad is 2 hours from here in flight. I'm like, whoa, time out. Like, I said, no, you have to go see. I said, but I can't just go, just me. Well, bring two people. I'm like, so I call brother Imam Sultan and I tell him, it's like they're organizing a trip to Mashhad. Like, you gotta come. Like, one, because it's great, and two, I ain't going there alone. And then there was another brother that was there. So, but they flew us. And when we landed, there was a taxi. They brought us to a nice hotel, and then we went to visit. And I mean, I could talk forever, but if you see Mashhad, it's on the internet. You think Mecca is cool? Like you've seen Mecca, right? Like beautiful.
Yes, sir.
No. Mecca looks like, I don't want to say the ghetto, but Mashhad makes Mecca looks kind of all right. Gold dome, real gold. Just I'll leave it at that. But
Mm,
it's just to show I'm looking at a picture, and because I look like I like it, they feel. You understand? It just comes in naturally that, oh, what can we, then that's hospitality. What can we do while they're with us for them? Because that's the definition of hospitality.
beautiful.
Taking the responsibility of the well-being of your guest while they are with you.
Yes, sir.
And it's to their core. They flew us there. Brother Sultan could tell you, it was, we were there for 3 days. 3 days. So that's some of it. But just really to narrow it down is really their open-mindedness to the world, and their love for Islam, the real Islam, and their willingness to sacrifice for it. You know, it's in their constitution from the Ayatollah Khomeini, that they must, so it's in the constitution that they must, as a nation, as a government, but as a nation, support the cause of the oppressed around the world.
Mm.
They put that in the constitution, and they mean it. Yeah.
Wow, beautiful teacher. Okay, praise be to Allah. People will bear witness. Thank you to everybody who's watching and continues to show love to our illustrious guests. We want to know, sir, many people have seen Minister Akbar standing with the minister in pictures and traveling and heard some of his speeches about Clarence 13X, Malcolm X, the history of New York and the history of the Nation of Islam prior to 75 to now. But if there was somebody who just saw him as a picture but never heard him speak or never interacted with him, what would you say uh, we should know, or people should know about him and his legacy?
Brother Joshua, how many important people you have in your phone? I mean, number, roughly. When I say important, like, people are like, oh, you know him kind of thing. You have a lot?
Maybe a few, you know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Got a few, right? I got a few. Brother Akbar had 125 heads of states, like
Hmm.
on his phone, that if he
Yes, sir.
called them, they would, like, if they saw his name on the phone, they would answer.
Beautiful.
Um, yes, I mean, he'd been around for a while, so there's the whole history of him in New York and the work that he did there. When Minister Farrakhan gave him the duty to do the work for the nation in Ghana, um, it started something for him that obviously he took very seriously. Um, and the same way he was dedicated in New York, uh, where he was into everything, yet most people might not know in New
Hmm.
York, that they was so um, vital in what we know about New York mosque in the 70s. We know Malcolm, we know, like you say, Clarence 13, all of that. We know, the history of Minister Farrakhan, what he
Yes, sir.
did in New York, right? Um, but he's into all of that. He was all, well, because that's how he is. That's his work ethic. His work ethic. It's how he take on a duty and a
Yes, sir.
responsibility. So, and obviously, Mr. Farrakhan knew all of this for our sharing all these years with him. So when he gave him that duty in Ghana, he knew what he was, who he was giving it to, obviously. But he ran with it. That, you go from, that was what, when was the Ghana? Late 80s, beginning of 90s. I
Hmm.
think it was the trip when, I think it was 92, when they went for Savior's Day in Ghana.
94.
94? Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think it was the trip before that, because I think that Savior's Day happened because Brother Akbar had
Hmm.
been there a bit, but don't quote me on that.
Yes, sir.
But it's around those years, right? So we're talking, let's say even 1990, you know. Well, by 2008, when I got to know him good, so we're talking 18 years. In 18 years, he became known to world leaders, the world over. And when I say known, not just like known, like, yeah, I met him at a cocktail, like known as in, yeah, I trust that man. Yes, I can rely on that man. Or they all had experiences where they, of course, they reached Minister Farrakhan through him, but because of their respect for Minister Farrakhan, they understood that, well, if Mrs. Farrakhan asked me to deal with this man off
Yes,
the
sir.
bat, then I know something about the man, right? But then you have to still maintain it and build it, and he did. Um, I Tuesday I was at the house of the former Prime Minister of Saint Vincent,
Mm,
um, who was Prime Minister for 25 years, who was in contact with the minister, with Gaddafi when the link was made at the African Union meeting in those years. Well, the Prime Minister of here was there. He was the
mm.
link for the Caribbean. But anyway, I was there when and Tuesday, so I told him that Brother Akbar had passed away. And I knew they knew each other because Brother Akbar called me once to try to get a phone number to get in touch with him some years
Mm.
back. So because he was supposed to speak at the Justice or Else, it was actually the only
Okay.
heads of state that was supposed to address. Um, so I knew they knew each other. I didn't know to which degree. So when I told him that, and I could see in his countenance that it affected him, had great respect for him. But that's the world over. So he did his work in America, and it had an impact, and it's lasting, and it's New York, New York. But on the international scene, if it was our way in the nation to do extravagant janaza and funeral service, and wait 2-3 weeks to get everybody organized,
Yes, sir.
we probably would be surprised to see who would show up
Mm.
at such a funeral. But it's not in our ways, and it's okay. But just to say, internationally, he was very respected and known.
Oh, praise Allah. Beautiful, sir. And thank you for your testimony. Alaikum salam. Thank you. The minister said they are beautiful people. Thank you, Brother Ian, for always showing love. And everybody who's watching, we have a brief 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast. We are grateful for every like, share, and subscription. Thank you to our super chats, to our anonymous cash apps. We are grateful for our Facebook family, Twitter family, TikTok family, everybody who just shows love to the People's Podcast. And man, it's been great. 1 second. And to our illustrious guest, if anybody has questions for him, please put that in the chat. Put those in the chat. Thank you. I got your text message, dear brother. And we're definitely going to make sure that we um, ask our guests some of the questions that you sent me. Yeah. There we go, brother. Okay. There we go. All right. Thank you very much. Got the sound on. Let's go. Right back to our guest. There we go. There we go. Premiere Media Production. He has a 4K camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out if you need any of that. Sister Naima, Stay On Point Dance Academy. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country. Sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me children's book and coloring book. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ. My two books, Cleopatra, which is a children's book, and No Father, No Excuse, both of which are available on Amazon. Excellent. As well as Star and Crescent Upholstery out of Detroit, Michigan. Raymond's father and son lawn care company out of Florida. Please support all of the sponsors. Yes, sir. Right back to you. Greetings, fam. Walaikum salam. Hustle with HBI. Thank you to everybody who's showing love. Also, we wanted to extend our condolences. I mean, it's been a rough couple days, as you said, years. But to our brother from Chicago, brother William Tenex, may Allah forever be pleased. We want to send love and positive energy to his family, the believers, everybody sharing it on Facebook right now. Man, it's Allah's the best of planners, but we just send love to everybody who has transitioned recently and throughout the years. Um, it's Curly Knight. Thank you very much to Curly Knight. If you could assist me with getting the connection, that would be great to those brothers. Walaikum salam. I speak the truth. Man, people just showing love. Thank you, sir. Now, you speak of culture and the difference you are say the states or America versus um, not just Montreal, but the specific. I'll make sure I get it right. Saint Vincent, and you breaking down the difference of the Virgin Islands and the different. Can you let us know, people in America who not familiar, who never traveled over there, what are some misconceptions that we have, and what can we do better to unite and connect with the believers and just people in general from over there?
Um, if we take it in NOI perspective, right? There are things that are taken for granted. I'll share this because I was in Canada when I joined, and I was there for until well about 20 years. Um, Now we have in the nation, let's say the nation's program, right? We need some of this land that we can call our own.
Yes, sir.
Um, all the 12-point program, it all says the United States of America. We shouldn't pay taxes until we were in Canada, where roughly at the time under 2 million Black people, um, 95% of which were either born or first generation like myself, whose parents were born in the Caribbean and we were born in Canada. There was very, very, very few people who had been in Canada for more, than two generations. So now these things in the nation don't apply to us, right? Like we can't say, well, we want some of this land that we can call our own in Canada.
Yes, sir.
That can't be our way of operating. My father wasn't dragged to Canada in chains. He bought a plane ticket. He flew in.
Yes, sir.
He landed on a Sunday. He had a job on Tuesday. He had a brand new car on Friday.
Mm.
Right. So these things don't apply. But now when you're in a nation, you there's a way to function, and then get your papers and push your papers.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, I had a few issues a few times when I was told, well, take more papers. I was captain at the time. And I said, yes, sirs, as soon as I get a copy in French, like selling a
Mm-hmm.
newspaper in English that says front page, the government is recruiting in your schools in Montreal is the same as maybe and New York FOI on the street of 127 and Lenox with a Spanish newspapers giving
Mm.
you stories about Mexico.
Mm.
That's the exact equivalent. But it was hard to understand these notion and these different perspective. Now the Caribbeans is well, technically we are in control of our land, so we have land that we can call our own, right? So that step is already done. For Black
Mm.
people in the Caribbean, we need some land that we can call our own. We have it, right? We have, for all intent and purpose, we have land. when we talk about the government in the Caribbean, especially from an NOI perspective, when you bring in the teaching, well, the government now is not this apparatus of people that are hell bent on ensuring that they stay on top and that you stay at the bottom as a people, right? Because the people in government, is my cousin. And said, like, literally, we're related, right? So you have to have a different approach towards the government, right? Whereas you're, let's say, in Atlanta, and the believers are there thinking about building a school so you can send your children, so you can have control over what they are taught. Well, in the Caribbean, you can have a different optic. You can say, well, we could change the curriculum of the Ministry of Education.
mm,
That can be our focus, right? So everything needs to be changed. Everything that the messenger brought needs to be brought in, but it's how you're going to put it in now. Do you understand? You don't have to build on the side. You got to see how much you could actually have influence in. When Minister Farrakhan did the tour in the Caribbean, um, you have to understand it was, except for one island, and it's not because of the islands, because of the government at the time, but except for one, we're talking um, motorcade by the police. We're
mm,
talking uh, um, everybody, everything. The whole government apparatus is at his disposition to ensure that everything is going well. And he's meeting the, he met every island, he met the person in power, prime minister, and he would meet the opposition as well.
mm,
Come to find out over that three-quarters of them easily would tell him, when I was in school at university, I used to listen to your tapes. Right. So the major difference is that the messenger said this. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this, and you can verify in closing the gap, and also, um, well, I guess check my quotes. But there's two quotes that come from the minister sharing things that the messenger told him
mm,
as a Caribbean descendant. One was, um, what the black man in America will take 6 years to learn, the black man in the Caribbean will learn in 6 months.
mm,
Now, this is not to say, well, that's because we're better than you. It's because it's his understanding of what was done to the mind and the history of it, and also the condition that we were at the time in the 60s, when he said it, is that we were coming out of into independence. So it's not that we're better, it's that we weren't beaten down as much, and we're already starting to rise a step ahead. But it's crucial to understand that we can't be in front of you, but that's theology. Now, so what was done to the black man and woman in the Caribbean? Destroyed communities, family, um, but to an extent, a lot of it was not totally destroyed. And because we grew, and I say we, but I'm talking about my grandparents, my great grandparents, didn't grow in a white environment. There was some white people on top, but they were a very, very small minority,
mm, mm,
right? So the everyday life was always spent for the last 3, 4 generations, even since after slavery, amongst black people
mm,
everywhere. The teacher,
mm,
the you understand, like the teacher, the police officer, the everything. So what it does to the psyche over time. But we're still too dependent. We still suffer from this thing that we expect that what the white man did. does is better than what we can do. And so
mm,
even when we control the country, we still look the people in government still looking at how do people run a country, white people run a country so we can
mm,
learn.
mm,
They
mm.
don't look to Africa. Um, in terms of the nation, I remember Brother Akbar one time was sharing how it was hard for people in the nation to understand that the suit and bow tie as class A that the messenger put it was because it had is to have an effect inside America, right? Because the suit and the bow tie is the gala uniform of the white man. It's the white man at his best, right? So he was saying, well, this is our start. This is our standard. Their best is our standard.
Mm.
Well, you go to Africa or to the Caribbean, like what I'm wearing right now is class A in the you call it walking suit in the States, I think, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
Right. Well, this is class A in the Caribbean. But
Mm,
that took a while. And that took Brother Akbar actually to, I don't want to say petition, but to help others understand that you can't put in Africa, he did it too, right? Where, well, you can't tell an African put on a suit and a bow tie, join the nation, put on a suit and bow tie. Why? You want me to dress like the white man? Like, that
mm,
makes no sense.
mm.
Right? So that's understanding the cultural viewpoint of the person. Because what we're bringing, and we want to learn the lessons from the Arabs. We don't want to bring our Islam mixed up with our culture and present it as one product, right? We want to learn from their mistakes.
You
Um,
teaching?
um, Even a fool can learn from his mistake. The wise men learn from the mistakes of others. So
That's right.
we want to know the difference between what it is that is the core of the teaching and what it is that the messenger gave us that has to do with the environment and the context. We have to be wise enough so we could adjust it.
Beautiful.
So the main difference for Black people, and understand that uh, you're Black, you're in America, you have met people from the Caribbean, whether they were born or second generation. Difference is if you're second generation West Indian Caribbean person in America, you kind of lose that. You'll hear, "Oh, I'm of Jamaican descent." That's what you're going to say if your parents were Jamaican and you're born in New York or
Mm,
Atlanta. You know, I'm of Jamaican descent. Whereas because you're Black and there's this big culture you morph into. In Canada, my daughter, I was born in Canada. My daughter was born in Canada. And 3 generations in, you'll say you're Jamaican or you're Vinci. You won't say
mm.
you're of descent. That's who you're because you don't morph into this other big culture,
Yes,
right? So
sir.
you
Yes,
don't
sir.
lose it. You don't lose. Same thing in Paris, right? In Paris, there will be a lot of people from Africa, and they'll be third generation, and they'll say, they're Malians, and they're from Cameroon, even though some never set foot. So that
Mm.
culture stays very, very present. And that may be something that, from an American perspective, you might not interact with West Indians that have this still strong because they trying to fit in. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
they'll lose a lot of it. But that won't happen outside. Um, so main difference is it's really it's subtle. It's subtle in that all in all, there's a stronger pride and and the family structure. I would say the family structure is in the community structure by default is allowed to be alive much more, much more. So it's more natural. We still got issues, like plenty, plenty, but we got land that we can call our own. So this is where we at. Incidentally, we can't beat prophecy, so we can't be resurrected before time. And who is the first to be resurrected?
Mm.
It is the black man and black woman of America. So
That's right.
we have to wait. We're waiting on you, really. We have to. There's a big role, you know. I wish more Black Americans could travel, so you would understand how the world is looking at Black America,
Mm,
like focused on, um, influenced by. Everywhere in the world you go, you will see the influence of Black America
mm,
in the youth, particularly, but in every aspect. Incidentally, Black America does not even know about the outside world, nor uh, of its influence.
mm,
And the day Black America awakes and stands up, the whole world is already fixated. They're already fixated in the condition you are now. And I say you, um, so you're sleeping and you're barely shaking, like the bones of Ezekiel.
that's
And the
right.
world is
That's right.
watching. When
That's
you're
right.
standing up, the whole world is just going to line up. The whole world's just going to line up behind and going to know and going to see. So in the Caribbean, that's where it is. Big influence too.
Beautiful. Allahu Akbar. Excellent. Walaikum salam, brother. 147 Savage out of Flint, Michigan. Thank you. Walaikum salam, Eid, Kareem, to our blessed brother Keith Jackson, and everybody who's watching. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Curley. I wanted to ask you, sir, since you speak French, is there a way that you could please? I want to, chop the edit of the video so we can get some of our people who speak French to tune into the people's podcast. Is there a way that you can say that for us?
I don't know if I should translate the name of the podcast though.
Oh well, whatever. I mean, however you do. However you
Well, you mean that you could use it
do.
as
Yes, sir.
a
If you could just say that, I just want you to encourage people in
yeah.
French, though.
Yes. Je vous invite à écouter notre frère Joshua Mohammed sur le People's Podcast. Um, Écouter ses invités et toute la sagesse et les informations qui sont partagées. Um, Salam alaikum. Que la paix soit avec vous. It's every week. I want to say what time it is, but
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Every week. And thank you. Parlez-vous français?
oui, je parle français.
Oui.
You? It's all right. It's
Yeah,
all
y'all
right.
hit. Y'all
You
see
got
him? Yeah, give me some. Yeah, you hear me out
it,
here.
enough of one colonial master's language is enough.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So,
Um, Thank you to everybody who's watching and showing love. We got to put you on the hot seat real quick. Two quick questions. Can we get you to come back for a part two that we can just focus on your life journey and learn? When we want to learn more, I want to travel to actually visit eventually in the future, so we got to set that up. But can you come back? Would you come back for part two, sir?
I'd be honored, brother. I'd be honored.
Oh, yes, sir. Leon is ours. And on a lighter note, we ask each guest, what type of music do you enjoy listening to, sir?
Well, I'm looking at your background right there, and I'm seeing one of my favorite album in the it would be to your left bottom. That's Music Soul Child
Okay,
right
okay,
there.
okay.
That is one of my favorite album for sure.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
incidentally, you're pretty eclectic. Is that your collection?
Yes, sir.
I seen a Queen up there from
Of course.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes,
You'd
sir. You
get
already
you,
know.
I mean, I'm not a Queen fan, but that song, yeah, that gets to me.
Yes, sir.
I see Michael Jackson right there. Um, I want to say I stopped listening to hip hop
Okay.
in around maybe 92. Anything that came around that after that lost
Okay.
me,
Okay.
man.
Okay. Yes, sir.
But I still listen to what was there before. I actually never stopped listening to Eric B. and Rakim.
Okay, okay,
I actually met in PE. I became actually quite close with Chuck D and the whole crew. Um, I listened to some French music.
okay. Put
Uh,
us on to some French music. What should we listen to?
oh, you want there's some real hip hop. I know you like hip hop.
Yes, sir.
Check Yusuf. Uh, Youssoupha.
Okay.
Now that is some you could sometimes you could there's sites where you can lyric translate. You lose the rhyme part, but you'll see the depth of what he's saying.
Yes, sir.
um he has this line where he says, I know we're happy. Well, I'm translating quick. He said, I know we're happy about Obama's win, but we don't change the world in a weekend with a yes we can.
Mm.
But he's saying that in French, but he's using the weekend and the weekend
Yes,
fitting.
sir.
And there's some beautiful things coming out of France in hip hop. Um, Beautiful, deep stuff. So yes, that's.
Beautiful.
But I'm quite eclectic in my music. Of course, I'm West Indian, so reggae, Bob
Okay, shout out
Marley.
Bob Marley. Shout out Bob Marley.
Well,
Okay, but I was going
every
to ask you, so because you said you're eclectic with Bob Marley, so when I was in high school, there was something that was like kind of popular in maybe where I'm from, like reggaeton. It was like I guess like pop reggae. Did you ever get into
that's
that?
Puerto Rico.
Okay,
Dancehall. Well,
like
reggaeton
dance off. Yeah, yeah.
reggaeton is really a break off of one actual one dancehall track. They took
I didn't know that.
one dancehall track that was very popular in dancehall circle, Jamaica. Now you have to understand, and that the minister said that Jamaica is the heartbeat of the Caribbean. Barbados is the head. Well, anything that comes out of Jamaica in terms of music for the last 3, 4 generations uh, sets the tone for the whole Caribbean.
Yes, sir.
So dancehall was huge when I was younger. um, Dancehall was huge. There was one track. So reggaeton is that one track, and then
Mm.
they turn a genre with that. But
Yes, sir.
that's really Puerto Rico. But
Okay. I didn't know that.
dancehall, reggaeton didn't really. I know it in the States and somewhat in Canada too, a little bit because there's a Latino influence and community. It didn't really pick up in the rest of the Caribbean
Mm.
because it was so obvious to us, right?
Okay.
Because
Okay.
that
Okay.
it was that track and there was other tracks. Do you remember Sean Paul?
Of course.
Right. Well, I don't know. You're kind of young. Well, Sean, but at that
Yeah,
time,
Sean Paul.
like
Yeah,
Sean
he was
Paul,
he ran the music like Sean Paul
right.
was.
So that was, but see, that was probably because he was palatable to mainstream in terms of
That's what I figured.
dancehall,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So they let him in.
Mm.
Incidentally, Sean Paul wanted to sing about conscious stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, but they told me he couldn't make it. But you know how the industry is, right? They
Yes,
mold
sir.
you, they
Yes, sir.
shape you. So he ended up talking about girl and gal and come wine. But that's not him. That's not what he wanted to do. He came
Okay.
into music. He wanted to sing conscious, but he's half Chinese. He came
Mm.
out of private school. They felt you won't be credible. But that's where his heart was. It probably still
Mm.
is. But so Sean Paul was the one that they let through in that
Yes, sir.
genre, right? But we had a lot that you might know, but won't be as big. Beanie Man,
Yeah, of course, Benny Man.
right?
Of course, shut up. Benny Man and them girls, them
Yeah,
sugar,
yeah,
all
yeah,
that.
yeah. So,
And yeah.
but there's a few that made a few tracks made it too. But here it's large, it's large. So dancehall reggae has always been,
I
and
gotta
still
visit.
is,
I
still is.
gotta visit.
Well, I tell you this: you want to taste the Caribbean and you don't have 25 trips to do. I tell you that Jamaica is is probably where you get the most out of your trip in terms of understanding the Caribbean. Because Jamaica, because of its size, and also because Jamaica has a lot of flavors, a lot of angles,
Okay.
right? Where you'll have the Maroons. You could go visit the Maroons up in the hill, and then you end up in villages where you'll find people who do not trace their family tree to slavery,
Mm.
right? Because they they fought it off straight off the boat, and they built communities that were not under slavery. And it
Wow.
shows. You smell it, you sense it. Bob Marley comes from there. Marcus Garvey comes from there, right? So you'll have that, and it's in the hill. You'll have the beach, of course. You want to catch the beach and the mellow, Ocho Rio and
Yes,
smooth
sir. Yes,
reggae.
sir.
They have that. You'll see also the city. Jamaica will give you all the aspects in a shorter span of time. um
Down River Falls.
yeah, you want to go to Ochorio's Montego Bay, but you want
Yes,
to,
sir. Yes,
you
sir.
know, so if you have a place to go, and I know it's kind of cliche, but the minister, when he had to take a rest. I don't know if you remember that story, when the messenger told him like he needed to rest, and you gotta
Okay.
go
Okay.
rest. That was in, I want to say, late 60s,
Mm.
maybe early 70s. But he told him to go to Jamaica.
Mm.
He told him to go to Jamaica. The sun in Jamaica is the best. So there's science to it on top of that. So, and then I'd say second, Barbados, to see what we could do I want to say, at our best if we're left alone. I think
Mm.
Barbados has created the best society for blacks that have gone through the horrors of slavery and what
Mm.
it entails. I think you get to see a society that is um, well, is the best that we've produced in terms of coherence, cohesiveness, and structure and beauty. And so Barbados will give you that, give you
Okay.
this is what we could do. Um, but it's not as big. It's got beautiful beaches. But set foot in Jamaica first.
Yes,
Definitely.
sir. Okay.
Definitely. I'm not saying don't come and see me. You come and see me, doors open, brother. But
Now I'm holding you to that, there, brother. I'm holding you
yeah,
to.
doors open. But I'm thinking about you. We're way down the line. We're
Yes,
small.
sir.
There's 100,000 people. In New York, my country is called a block.
Mm.
The whole
Mm.
country
Mm.
fits on a block. So
Mm.
yeah, but it's
Yes.
beautiful. It's a beautiful place. Incidentally, and I think that explains a lot in this country. Um, Saint Vincent is the place in all of the Americas, North, South, and Central, where the chattel slavery period was the shortest.
Mm.
Whereas in places like in America, we have you're talking 12 generations, right? Um, Barbados actually has the longest period of chattel slavery. St. Vincent has 40 years of chattel slavery. 40
Mm.
years. That's literally, that means that somebody that was 15 years old when slavery started on this island was 55 when slavery was abolished. Right? So that's one generation. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. How did that come about? Was it a
Right.
revolution?
So right. Well, so the French came here, but it wasn't the French crown, like in Martinique or Guadeloupe or Haiti. It was not the crown, it was some merchants. The terrain is basically, it's a volcano, right? That sticks out of the sea, and then is very mountainous. So so as merchants, the French didn't take it over, but they claimed it on paper. They bragged that they had it, but in reality they didn't. When the British beat the French in the War of 1780,
Mm.
the French gave it in the treaty. But that's being signed in Paris, right? So they say,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
well, we have
Yeah,
this
yeah.
piece of land over there, so you can have it. So the British came here thinking, it's like I got the key to the house. I open the door, I walk in. They realized the French didn't control nothing.
Mm.
Here was a people of, there was two people really, two. There was the original, the aboriginal of the Americas, whatever term we want to use. Sometimes they call it Arawak, sometimes they call it Taino, depending. But we know what we're talking about, right? The descendant of the Indians that came 15,000 years ago.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's the original. But there's also, and I know, Mansa Musa,
Of course.
right? Well, Mansa Musa became, do you know how he became the Mansa? Because his
No,
name was
sir.
Musa, but Mansa's king. Well, he became Mansa of the Empire of Mali because his brother was the king, but his brother wanted to go see about a piece of land that he heard existed. At that time, Mali was fully developed. So we're talking a king that's like got no more challenges anymore.
Mm,
He
mm,
took 1,000 ship with 1,000 men on each ship and sailed west. Now
mm.
we're talking in the 14th century. So that's over 150 years before Columbus exists.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So he left and he never came back. So he put his brother on the seat while he was gone and he never came back. His brother was Musa and he became the Mansa. So that's how
Mm,
you got Mansa, Musa. His brother was Abu Bakari too. His arrival in Brazil is still celebrated in a festival in the province of Bahia, where the people in San Salvador know that they come from Mali. Well, when you leave the coast of Mali on boat that sails, the current carries you not to Brazil. It carries you because you're in the open sea. You're just following the current and the wind. You don't navigate in that Atlantic. The current carries you right here under my feet in St. Vincent and Grenadines. So, so 1,000 ship, 2 months on sea. He wants to continue. This place is small, but some of those people on that ship saying, "Hey, I ain't a sailor. I'm a soldier. I'm a mason. Or I'm whatever. I'm done. I ain't getting back on no darn boat." So the expedition continued to Brazil, but some stayed here. Not a lot, but some. So they intermingled. So that's the second people that existed here when the French arrived and when the British arrived. The French were welcome because they came to trade. There was no problem. They had their space. They let them in. When the British came, they were welcome. Well, then they trying to do British stuff and do what
yes.
British do. And then the fight started that is called the First Carib War,
Mm,
where now after that war, the British had to actually sign a treaty, a peace treaty.
mm,
That didn't happen nowhere else in the Americas, nowhere else.
mm,
But they got their ass whooped. So they signed a peace treaty, and then they did the second British thing. Is like, well, screw what our word. We're gonna call some backup. They called some backup. Backup came. Second Carib War.
mm,
That one dragged on, dragged on. They eventually won. By the time they won, we're in 1796. So now they're starting to have control over the island. 1796. They've been fighting 15 years or so. So now they start to establish themselves. So now there's plantation. Now there's import of Africans to be put under slavery. And then 1838 is when slavery was abolished in the British Empire.
mm.
In America, 1870, 65,
Yes,
65 in
sir.
America, right?
Yes, sir.
But in the Caribbean, in the British Empire, is 1836 to 1838, right? So in St. Vincent, slavery was from 1796 to 1838. So
Mm.
that's 40 years. Not only that, but they didn't control the whole island because, as I said, it's a volcano. You don't do a plantation on a mountain.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So a lot of people lived in the mountain. There are villages where you'll find people that, I mean, they're not tracing it, but for all intent and purpose, do not are not descendants of slaves.
Wow.
And that shows in the mindset too. And that can be studied. Jamaica too, right? So there's a portion of Jamaicans. There was big plantations in Jamaica. I mean, massive slavery, heavy, hard stuff. But there is a place, their mountains, where the people ran and they had their own community. And that fact affects the mindset. And it shows in Jamaica too. So that's part of the history. Um, the history of Black America and the people of the Caribbean is much more intertwined than we want that we know. Look at, you're saying Black Power, right? That's the pivotal time in Black history. Who said Black Power? It's not Stokely Carmichael,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
right? Where you from? Where you born?
Mm,
Trinidad.
okay.
Um, I mean, go back. What was the first pro-black organization in America that even the messenger, uh, tipped his hat to? Was the Universal Negro Improvement Association of
Yes,
Marcus
sir. That's
Garvey
right. Yes, sir. That's
from
right.
from where? From
Mm,
Jamaica. Then you
okay.
got then you got the Nation of Islam, right? And where you have at some point a jump of growth from a man who grew up in a UNIA home, right? Influenced uh by his mother, who
Mm,
was a
okay.
West Indian.
Yes.
Both his parents. Incidentally, his I'm starting to sound like Akbar. I got stories, but I have to drop that one. I have to. So incidentally, Malcolm X's brother, parents met at a UNI meeting. They were both from the Caribbean, right?
Mm,
And where was that UNI meeting held? Montreal, Canada,
mm,
where the Nation of Islam's first meeting and the first study group took place,
mm,
right? So now you got the influence of the Caribbean. Then we got the Bulls, the biggest, the strongest champion for Black people in the history of Black people.
Allahu Akbar.
And his parents were from the Caribbean. And
Yes, sir.
he was influenced by the Caribbean. Um, the Harlem Renaissance, all of that happened, that bubbling, that right. Well, there's a lot of West Indians that were in New York at that time. And when you read the history, you see these Bajans and these people from Dominican Republic, from Dominica, that that intertwined and interconnected and shared.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
our real history, our important history, our milestones are very, very intertwined. Maybe on a day to day, we look at each other sideways inside America. I've heard stories. I didn't grow up in America, but I've heard stories. The minister shared some. Um, Even the messenger said, at least he's quoted in Closing the Gap, the saying that he was considering in the 60s not allowing West Indians in the nation,
Mm,
right? So that says something. Obviously, he didn't do it, but he considered it. So to say that in his view, there was a difference. We want, so we have to be careful when we say, well, we're all in the same. That's the part of understanding nuances. Not to say there's a wall between us. Not to say, well, I am a Jamaican. It's not, or I am a Vincent and you are that. It's not at that level. It's to say there are nuances. There are, it's in shades, and it's important to be aware of it, and so that we can work together. The Quran says it like this: we made you into tribes and
yes,
people.
sir.
Why?
Mm,
Why? That you may learn from one another.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So what does that mean? What are we to learn from one another?
Mm, mm,
Right. And I propose that is that we are facing life through different angles. And so we are learning lessons about life through different angles. So we can learn that. So what I managed to learn in my circumstances, well, I can share with you. You don't have to go through it if we interact, right? I figured out how to do a fire. I'm not gonna say, well, you figured it out. I'm gonna share that, right? I'm gonna share that information with you. So that's what it is. But we have to know what it is. One that we've learned, because unless you compare yourself with another culture, you don't know what is your culture, and
Yes, sir.
that goes for anybody. Unless you've seen another culture, everything you grew up around, you think, well, that's the norm. That's how it's done. Then you see another culture, and then you say, oh, so that means that way is my way. So you learn about yourself when
Okay.
you interact with other culture. And then you can share what you've learned through your history and your trials. And then we can be like the Quran and learn from one another and therefore grow. And that is what was beautiful about Brother Akbar. To close it up, is that he knew these nuances, not because he was more intelligent than anybody, but because he was curious, interested,
Yes, sir.
and aware that these things were there, right? So he went to look for it,
Mm.
and he learned from it, and he wanted so bad to share it with everybody. And also, I think he wanted mostly for people to be more curious and interested. That's really why he was sharing these stories. And I hope that it doesn't, I know it won't end with it. We have to be more global. He was global in a time where there was no internet, brother. Like you have to,
Mm.
you understand?
Yes,
Like
sir.
now it's nothing. I learned this on Wikipedia, or I learned this on my phone. I saw
Yes,
it
sir.
from Nigeria on the TikTok. He went there, or he learned by going, by wanting to know, by and we will honor him when we do that, when we bridge these artificial gap and learn about each other, know each other, and learn from each other.
Oh, what beautiful. Yes, sir. On that positive note, we want to thank you again. We salute you. Thank you for your sacrifices on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience, and the sacrifices of your family. We look forward to learning more about your journey next time, inshallah. This is
Inshallah.
Joshua Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast. Eid Mubarak.
Keep Kareem, brother.